Tēnei te puka puka, The Fish of Maui, Te Ika a Maui. Written and illustrated by Peter Gossage. Maui had magical powers, and was much better at everything than his 4 foster brothers, Roto, Mua, Pai, and Taha. They planned to go fishing the next day, but had not told Maui, as they were jealous and did not want him to come. Early next morning, Maui hid himself in the bottom of the canoe. His brothers laughed as they set off, little knowing that Maui, Nukurau the trickster, was going with them. They paddled out beyond the breakers until they found a good place to fish, but it was not good enough for Maui Atamai, the quick-witted. He sprang from his hiding place in the bottom of the canoe. The brothers, still shocked by Maui's magical appearance, obeyed his order to paddle on. On and on they paddled. They begged Maui to stop, but he would not. As the sun began to set, the land was already out of sight. All that night Maui paddled by the light of Marama, the moon. One by one, the brothers fell asleep. The sea miles slipped beneath the keel of the canoe as something drove Maui on and on. Morning found the brothers grumpy and surly. Maui was at last satisfied with the fishing place, but as utu, or revenge, his brothers would give him no bait. So he struck himself on the nose and smeared the magic jawbone hook with his own blood. Around and around his head he whirled the jawbone of his ancestor. Out and up it crept in a widening spiral, like a great carving in the air. Then he flung it free to plummet like te kawo, the shag, into the ocean. The line plunged through the depths with the speed of a taiaha. The bone struck wood and locked into the arm of a carving. Maui, on the other end of the line, did not know that his hook was snared on the teko of a whare, rooted deep in the back of a giant being. He was not landing a fish, but fishing a land. He tugged ka hutia Maui. He wrenched ka kukume. He heaved ka thaw. He strained with every muscle in his body. Ka wiri hoki ngā ua o tana tinana. At the bottom of the ocean, something began to stir. Above, Maui chanted karakia, magical incantations that passed down the line and into the great fish. They called upon it to rise up, to become light and float to the surface. But it knew that the sea was its home and began to fight. Maui braced himself as the sea began to churn and boil. Planting his feet firmly astride the canoe, he started to pull in the line. His terrified brothers made no move to help him, but they clung to the bucking craft. Hand over hand, and inch by inch, Maui hauled in the line. The fish threshed in fury. but his strength was not as strong as Maui's will. Power coursed through Maui, and the great fish ballooned to the surface. And what a fish it was! His tail stretched away to the north, and his head lay far in the south. "I must get my hook," said Maui. "Do not touch him while I am gone. He is smooth and flat, and I do not want him damaged." But the moment Maui was out of sight, his brothers began to hack out their share. For, after all, hadn't they helped with the paddling? The great fish writhed in agony as the paddle blades sliced into his flesh. In no time, his once smooth back was a jagged mass of valleys and ranges. The fish of Maui was now a rugged land. You may have visited Te Ika a Maui, or even be living on his back at this very moment, for he is the North Island of New Zealand. Doesn't it look rather like a battered stingray?